Evening, everyone. In the last class, we had gone ahead and we had discussed what are the major issues addressed by macroeconomists. What we are going to go ahead and do today is we are going to take each of this issue in much more detail. एक issue पर हम दोबारा अच्छे से बात करेंगे. So we are going to talk about what are, the first factor we talked about is long run economic growth. We are going to go ahead and take that in detail. Okay, let's have a look at it. देखो बेटा, long run economic growth refers to what is going to be the trend that my economy is going to follow. When I say trend, by trend I mean whether it is going to be an upward trend or a downward trend. Whether I'm going to go ahead and do whether my national income will increase or decrease in the long run. So when I talk about the long run economic growth in any economy, I basically refer to the trend, whether this trend is going to be upward or whether this trend is going to be downward. Aisa, whether it is going to increase in the long run or decrease in the long run. Now note that the author says, Abel and Bernanke, they mention that there is a difference between rich nation and poor nation. Rich or poor nation की जो income है उसमें बहुत ही difference है. And they mention that, what happens is that जो rich nation में poorest of poor कर रहा होगा. Like for example, in the rich nation, poorest of poor citizen cannot afford food, shelter or healthcare. But in the developing nation, a middle class person will not be able to afford that, right? So what a rich person cannot do, what a poor person can do cannot do in the rich countries, that's a very normal situation in developing countries. एक example के तौर पे, अगर मैं इंडिया में एक मिडिल क्लास इंसान की बात करूं, then that can be compared to a poor person in US. US में शायद एक poorest of poor individual के पास भी कार होगी जो इंडिया में मिडिल क्लास फैमिली की ड्रीम हो सकती है. So what we are saying is कि rich nation में जो poorest citizen होता है, जो problem उनको आती है, like inadequate food, shelter, healthcare, that is the problem of an average citizen in the developing nation. So the claim is that in the past, एक nation क्यों rich बना? Why did a nation become rich? So the claim is that in the past, a rich nation has extended periods of rapid growth. एक rich nation में continuous rapid growth हुई है, but a poor nation has only seen some periods of small growth, और वो भी sustained नहीं है. वो भी ऐसा नहीं है कि growth हुई तो लगातार होती रही. So a rich nation, it has experienced extended period of rapid development, whereas a poor nation, it has rarely, very rarely experienced growth. So it has never experienced any sustained growth. Poor nation ने sustained भी experience नहीं की है, और rich ने extended and rapid growth experience की हुई है. Are you getting the difference? So then it says that why is this happening? ऐसा क्यों है कि US का जो GDP है वो बढ़ रहा है? One reason is the available workers. So people who are the human capital, available workers से मेरा मतलब है human capital. So people who are a part of the labor force in US is very high, right? So slowly as the population of US increased, we saw that the labor force increased. We saw the increase in the number of workers, and that is why there was increase in GDP of US. ये एक reason है जो Abel and Bernanke ने दिया है. Additionally, सिर्फ यही नहीं है कि लेबर बढ़ा, but लेबर की productivity भी बढ़ी. So the second reason that they talk about is the average labor productivity. They talked about the average labor productivity, that on an average, अगर पहले लेबर 4 units बनाता था तो अब maybe 10 units बनाता है. So the productivity of the labor also increased. So Abel and Bernanke have focused on two things. First, increase in the labor force, and second, increase in the productivity of the labor. It is the rate of growth of output per worker that determines whether economy will be rich or poor. So ये बोलते हैं कि आउटपुट जो है क्या वो इंक्रीज हो रहा है या डिक्रीज हो रहा है? व्हाट्स द ग्रोथ रेट ऑफ द आउटपुट? That will determine whether the economy will be rich or poor. So the rate of growth of output will determine whether the economy will be rich or poor. Another determinant of growth is the technological change. So whether you are able to have the latest technology or not, that will also determine the growth. So beta yahan par na, actually that's the reason why countries these days are focusing on R&D activities. Research and development. R&D actually helps your economy to grow, right? So this is the first thing that we talked about, beta. This is long run economic growth. Let us focus on the second factor, that is business cycle. So business cycle kya hoti hai? But a business cycle is expansions and contractions in the economic activity. मतलब कभी तो आपकी economy बहुत अच्छा perform कर रही होगी, the GDP will be high, everybody will be employed, and कभी इकोनॉमी बहुत बुरा परफॉर्म कर रही होगी, जीडीपी विल बी लो, पीपल विल नॉट बी एम्प्लॉयड, suppliers will not be able to supply their commodity. So this expansion and contraction of the economic activity, this is called beta the business cycle. So business cycle are short run, but they are expansions and contractions in the economic activity. Expansions and contractions in the economic activity. The downward phase of the business cycle is called recession. तो जब output गिर रहा होता है, when national output is falling, when people are unemployed, when people don't have job, जैसे COVID-19 के बाद हुआ. So when the output is falling, when people do not have job, that's called recession. Recessions are the major reason for concern for politicians. Why? बेटा समझो, politicians को election जीतने के लिए दिखाना होता है that people are employed, that economy is performing well, that economy is in a boom. तब उनका chances of re-elected बहुत high होंगे. The chances that they will be re-elected will be very high if the economy is doing well, if the nation is expanding. But recession के period में the economy is not performing well. It's a period of lethargicness. It's a period when nobody has a job. It's a period when economy is not performing well. So अगर recession का period चल रहा है, to get re-elected becomes difficult. ठीक है जी? So recession is a major concern for politicians, and this is because their chances of getting re-elected falls. So this is a typical business cycle, beta. This has boom, followed by recession, followed by depression, and then again recovery. This is the worst period of an economy. This is the lowest point. But these are circular in nature. मतलब हर रिकवरी के बाद बूम आएगा ही आएगा, हर बूम के बाद दोबारा रिसेशन आएगा ही आएगा, हर डिप्रेशन के बाद रिकवरी होगी ही होगी. These are short term and they keep repeating themselves in the economy, right? Okay, beta. So this is business cycle. That's the second point. So if you remember from our last class, the second point that we had asked was, what is the cause of fluctuation in nation's economy? Economy में किस वजह से fluctuation आती है? Business cycle की वजह से. So we studied business cycle. The first thing we studied is what are the factors determining long run growth. And Abel and Bernanke ने क्या factors दिए हैं? How much labor force you have? What is the average productivity of the labor force? And what is the technological growth in your economy? Okay. So we studied about the factors determining nation's long run economic growth. We studied about the causes of fluctuation in the nation's economic activity. Now in the next lecture, we will focus on the next two, which is unemployment and inflation. Okay, thank you.